I caught my wife cheating with my boss. But that was just the beginning. What they didn't know. I had a plan, and I was about to flip their entire world upside down. You know, I've come to realize that maybe the deepest cut a woman can give the man she says she loves is to betray that love by being unfaithful. That's a thought that's been echoing in my head all night. Just a few hours ago, I thought my life was solid. I had a great career with a company that paid well, a comfortable home in a quiet neighborhood, and a wife I believed was loyal and loving. I still have the first two, sure, but that third one, well, that's a whole different story now. Her name's Allison. We've been married just shy of 5 years. I still remember the first time I saw her, clear as day. She was the new hire at Patterson & Reed, the financial consulting firm I've been with for almost a decade. She started off doing admin work, handling all the back-end stuff nobody really notices, but everything would fall apart without. Eventually, she moved up to become an executive assistant to Jake Patterson, the son of the company's founder. Now Jake, he's kind of a legacy case. His grandfather started the firm back in the day, passed it on to his son Greg, who's the current CEO. I was offered a position by Greg himself 8 years ago, and I jumped at the chance. I was fresh out of therapy at the time, trying to rebuild my focus and get back on my feet. I started working days, took night classes to earn my MBA, and poured myself into becoming someone dependable, both professionally and personally. Then Allison walked into my life and it felt like something shifted. I was taken with her the moment we met. After clearing things with HR, just to make sure there wouldn't be any issues, I asked her out. We dated, we fell hard, and before long we tied the knot. Greg even paid for our honeymoon in Hawaii, which was one of the kindest gestures I've ever experienced from a boss. Things felt good. Stable. A few years ago, one of the senior managers, guy named Tom, started talking about retiring. He'd bought some property up in northern Idaho where he and his wife wanted to settle down early, enjoy the slower pace of life while they still had their health. We all knew it was coming. He'd been dreaming about that move for years. And when he finally stepped down, it left a bit of a vacuum at the top. Jake started stepping up more and more. Jake. Yeah, I noticed things about him I didn't say out loud. There was something about the way he asked questions, personal ones. I remember this one conversation that stuck with me. He pulled me aside one day and started asking about Allison. Not about her work performance, but personal stuff. What she was like at home, whether she was fun or moody, bubbly or intense. He even said, I just want to know what I'd be getting into if I hired her. That rubbed me the wrong way. I looked him straight in the eye and said, Look, Jake, Allison and I are happily married. She's a bright, kind woman who brings joy wherever she goes. And more importantly, she's my wife. If you think she's the right fit for the job, then make her an offer based on that. Otherwise, let it go. At the time, I didn't think much of it beyond a weird conversation. Maybe I should have. Later, Allison brought up that she'd heard some rumors floating around, gossip from around the office. She asked me straight out, Do you trust me? I remember looking at her for a long moment before saying, Of course I do. And I meant it. But now, sitting here in the quiet of our house, with all the lights off except for the street lamp bleeding in through the blinds, I don't know anymore. That trust, something I once believed was unshakable, is starting to feel like it was built on sand. I trust you, I told her, and I meant it. But him? I shook my head. I wouldn't trust that guy any farther than I could throw him. Earlier that day, Jake had dropped by my office, unannounced as usual, and started asking questions. Nothing directly inappropriate, but definitely crossing a line. So, how's Lauren at home? He asked me, leaning against my desk like we were old buddies. Caught me off guard. I mean, who asks that? I brushed it off, but it sat with me unsettled. Lauren raised an eyebrow when I brought it up that night. And what exactly did you say? She asked. I told him the truth, I said, looking her in the eye. That you're an absolute joy to be around, and that I'm lucky to call you my wife. And I also made it crystal clear that we're happy together. I said it with conviction, but the truth was, things between us had been rough lately. Jake had been sending her on more and more business trips out of town, and it didn't matter if we had something planned or not. Work always came first. And it was taking a toll. On both of us. Our connection had started to fray. For one, our intimacy had practically vanished. Nights we used to spend laughing, touching, just being close. They faded into silence. And I couldn't help but notice her wardrobe had changed. Lauren used to dress professionally, classic business wear, tasteful and confident. But lately her clothes were different. Tighter. Flashier. It wasn't just about style. It felt like she was dressing for someone else. She'd also become more distant with me. Where she was once bubbly and warm, her energy now felt formal, almost guarded. Then came the party. Jake had invited us to some get-together at his place. I wasn't exactly thrilled. I never liked blurring the lines between work and personal life, especially with someone like Jake. It's like they say, familiarity breeds contempt. Plus, I didn't know who was going to be there. That made me uneasy. Do you even know who these people are? I asked her the night before. I've met a few of them, she said casual. Most are old friends of Jake's from college and maybe one or two from client firms. Not sure who else. Well, I sighed, I'll go, but only if you promise me something. Come home at a normal hour this week. We haven't had a night to ourselves in way too long. Can you do that? She paused, then nodded. I think so. We've got some breathing room this week. The next day Jake swung by my desk again. Hey buddy, he said with that familiar smirk that always rubbed me the wrong way. You were right. Lauren's a real pleasure to work with. I appreciate you being understanding, giving her space to do her thing without piling on. He went on, honestly? I'd be lost without her. I didn't know how to take that. I forced a smile. Glad you're happy with her work, I said. But then I added, just curious, do you call her Lori to her face? He looked amused. Of course I do. Why? No reason, I said, brushing it off. But it didn't sit right with me. That evening Lauren came downstairs wearing a dress I hadn't seen before, elegant, sleek, but definitely turning heads. Jake actually picked this out and asked me to wear it tonight, she said, smoothing it over her hips. Sure, I said, forcing a grin. Just be careful, someone might get the wrong idea. She laughed. Oh please. Everyone knows where the lines are. They'd better, I said, pulling her into a hug. I leaned in to kiss her, but she turned her face away. Later, she said, waving her hand. I just did my makeup. We drove over to Jake's townhouse, a 2-story place in one of those upscale neighborhoods you only see in real estate ads. He opened the door with that ever-casual grin, ushering us in like we were his best friends. The first thing I noticed? The smell. Faint but familiar. Marijuana. Not overpowering but definitely there. I glanced at Lauren, who didn't seem fazed. And once again I felt that sinking feeling, the kind you get when you realize you're not quite sure what world your partner is stepping into, or who they're becoming when you're not around. I'll be right back, Jake said, disappearing down the hall with the same casual swagger he always carried. A few minutes later he came back holding 2 drinks and handed them out. One for me and one for Lauren. Lauren took a big sip right away like she'd been waiting on it. I, on the other hand, barely touched mine. Just a tiny taste. Something about this whole night was rubbing me the wrong way. My gut was sending up flares and I told myself right then, I'm staying sharp. No matter what. Jake motioned for everyone to make themselves comfortable in the living room. I followed Lauren and noticed she made a beeline for the love seat. Naturally, I started to sit down beside her, until Jake slid in first all too smoothly like it was planned. I froze for a second, caught off guard. Go ahead, he said, patting the seat beside him. I stood there trying not to let the discomfort show. Nah, I said, keeping my voice easy. Never been a fan of cramped couches anyway. Jake shrugged, lit something up and took a slow drag. The smell hit me right away. Wheat. He held it out toward me. Want some? He asked like it was nothing. Before I could respond, Alan, Jake's dad, chuckled and passed it along. I shook my head. I'll pass, I said. I'd rather keep a clear head tonight. Jake laughed like I was being uptight. You're lost, man. This is a party. Loosen up a little. Heck, if you overdo it, you can always crash here. You've got time off next week, don't you? Then he turned to Lauren, grinning. Shotgun? To my surprise and disappointment, Lauren smiled wide and nodded like a kid being offered candy. Sure, she said like it was the most natural thing in the world. I stood there with my thoughts spinning a mile a minute. Something was wrong. I didn't want to think it, not really, but a voice in the back of my mind kept whispering the same thing over and over. She's cheating on you. And it's with him. Jake had once said I was a solid analyst. And I was. But that wasn't just talent, it was because I paid attention. I saw the patterns. I read between the lines. Alan taught me that years ago when I was just starting out. Numbers only tell part of the story, son, he told me once. The truth's always buried in the fine print. Something feels off, it usually is. Trust your gut. Those words echoed through my head as I took another tiny sip from my glass. That's when I noticed something strange. At the bottom of the glass, there were undissolved grains. Something powdery. My stomach turned. What the hell? I muttered, setting the glass down quickly. I glanced around. Everyone else was staring at me like I'd said something odd. I wanted to speak up, to ask what was going on, but suddenly everything felt slow. My thoughts blurred together, my limbs got heavy. I opened my mouth, but the words didn't come out right. "You okay?" I heard Lauren ask. Her voice sounded far away, warped, like it was coming from underwater. I blinked, trying to focus, but my eyelids felt like they were made of lead. The room swirled, darkening at the edges. And then, nothing. When I came to, it was still dark, but softer somehow. I was lying on a bed, a big one, with Lauren next to me. She was asleep. Across the room I spotted two other men, both passed out. One was slumped over in an armchair in the corner, the other curled up on the couch near the window. For a moment I couldn't remember where I was or how I got there. My head throbbed and there was this fog I couldn't quite shake. But one thing was clear: something happened. And whatever it wasn't right. Not even close. Moving quietly, I made my way back downstairs, careful not to wake anyone. My head was still groggy, but I knew I had to act fast. I needed to figure out what exactly they'd slipped into my drink. I rummaged through Jake's kitchen like a man on a mission, pulling open drawers and cabinets until I found what I was looking for: a plastic Tupperware container with a screw-on lid. I went back to the living room, grabbed what was left in my glass and carefully poured it into the container. I sealed it tight, tucked it into my coat pocket and took a deep breath. I didn't know what my next move was, but I knew I couldn't just sit on this. I walked back over to where Lauren, my wife, was still asleep or pretending to be. I reached down and gently pulled her keychain from her purse without waking her. It felt like a betrayal just holding it, but at this point I needed it more than she did. Back in my car I called up RK, my closest friend from way back, someone I could trust with my life. "Everything okay?" he answered groggily. "It's late, man. I'd rather explain in person," I told him. "It's not something I want to get into over the phone." RK didn't hesitate. "All right. I'll be there in 20. You good to hang tight?" "Yeah," I said. "Thanks, buddy. I really appreciate it." "Hey, ride or die, right?" he said with a small laugh. That was RK's thing, he always said that. "Ride or die." "Ride or die," I repeated, trying to smile through the weight in my chest. When we ended the call, I sat there staring out at the convenience store across the lot. After a few seconds I thought, screw it. I went inside and bought a 12-pack of beer and 2 packs of cigarettes. I hadn't touched a smoke since I left the service, but tonight I needed something, anything, to ground me. When RK showed up, I handed him the drink sample in the container. "Problem?" he asked, holding it up to the light. "I need to know what's in it," I said. "And how'd you get this?" he asked, eyeing me. "Took it off Lauren's keychain," I admitted. RK gave a slow nod. "You know you won't be able to use any of this footage legally, right? Not from inside his house." "Yeah," I said. "I figured as much. This isn't about court or pressing charges. This is personal." RK didn't say anything for a second, just nodded again. "Got it." I handed him an extra key to my place. "Here. You might need to get in while I'm out." He took it and I scribbled a 4-digit number on a napkin and handed it to him. "That's the code to my security system." Later that night, RK and I sat down in front of his laptop to go over the footage from the hidden camera I'd managed to plant. He had the setup, clear sound, decent picture. We fast-forwarded through the beginning. At one point you could see me lie back, clearly groggy. The others, the 3 men plus Lauren, stood over me looking down. You could hear her ask, "Are you okay?" like she was innocent. Then came Jake's voice, "Just take a nap, Mark." What happened next made my skin crawl. Lauren leaned down and whispered something in my ear. I remembered that part, I just couldn't recall what she said. But the audio picked it up. "You sure you don't want to tie him up and make him watch?" someone joked. Then Jake's voice again, this time darker, colder. "Well, guess what, Dad? I'm in charge now. I've got Mark's job, I've got his girl, and by next week, your golden boy's gonna be a broke, strung-out mess." They all laughed. I sat there, frozen. Then Jake turned to the group. "You guys with me?" All 3 of them responded with a twisted, "Yeah." He looked at Lauren. "What about you, babe? You in? Because if not, I'll toss you to the curb right alongside him." There was a pause. Then her voice, soft and sickeningly sweet. "I'm with you, sweetheart," she said. "Besides, I think I already made my choice." That line hit me like a punch to the gut. At this point, walking away wasn't even an option anymore. I was too far in, too hurt, too betrayed, and honestly too consumed by it all. I wasn't just trying to protect myself anymore. I wanted answers. I wanted clarity. And I wanted her to see what she destroyed. When Lauren muttered something about loving this too much to walk away. I assumed she meant Jake's life. His world, his power, maybe even his bed. My stomach turned. I kept hearing RK's voice in my head, casual but serious. Do or die, bro. Yeah, I muttered. Do or die. While I sat with a cold beer on the back porch trying to quiet the storm inside me, RK was inside the house doing his thing. He rigged the front room and both bedrooms with hidden audio and video setups, even tapped the landline we barely used. He set everything to feed into a secure cloud server, accessible from anywhere. No matter where I was, I could watch what happened in my own home. When he finished, he handed me a piece of paper with the server link and login details. He also showed me the switch hidden near the breaker panel that could activate the entire system with a single flick. I stared at the switch for a long second. A big part of me wanted to torch the place right then. Light a match and watch it all burn. The house, the lies, the memories. But I didn't. Not yet. I wanted her to see it fall apart. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done, not just hear it secondhand. I wanted her to witness the life we built crumble in real time. Then another idea hit me. I grabbed another beer, sat back down on the couch and opened my laptop. I transferred the footage I'd already collected from RK's system and sent it to myself. I made sure the files uploaded properly and played back clearly. No room for doubt. Next, I wrote a detailed letter, actually several. One for every member of the board of directors, and one specifically addressed to David, our interim CEO. I explained what I'd uncovered. Not just about the affair but about the manipulation, the betrayal, and what it meant for the company if this sort of toxicity kept festering inside our leadership. After that, I did something I probably shouldn't have, but I was past the point of caring. I picked up Lauren's phone from the coffee table and unlocked it. I knew the passcode. I'd set it up for her when she first got the thing. I went straight to her text. My jaw clenched tighter with every message I read. Turns out, this hadn't just been going on for a few weeks or even a couple months. They'd been messing around for at least half a year. But what stung more than anything were the things she said about me. 3 months ago, something shifted. It wasn't just secretive anymore. She started bad-mouthing me to Jake like I was some pathetic dead weight. I mean, the affair alone would have been enough, but this? It was venomous. It was personal. And it made it clear that the woman I thought I married hadn't been by my side for a long time. Then came the photos, dozens of them. Lauren half naked in our bathroom. Jake completely naked in our bedroom. Their bedroom now, I guess. I didn't even know what to feel anymore. Rage, grief, disgust. It all blurred together. Cut to the next morning. Jake stepped out of the bathroom, wrapped in a robe like some smug prince. You want to go downstairs and get breakfast going? He asked Lauren. Mark'll probably want coffee, if he's even awake yet. Yeah, sure, she replied, slipping on her robe like nothing was out of place. She padded downstairs, bare feet on the hardwood, made her way into the kitchen and started a pot of coffee. Still wearing that same easy smile, she walked into the living room, probably expecting to find me half awake and hungover. But then she stopped cold. The couch was empty. The blanket she'd draped over me was tossed aside, my shoes gone. Her face shifted. It wasn't panic, not quite, but she looked unsettled. Like something had cracked the script she'd been rehearsing in her head. She stood there, quiet, and then called out. Mark? Honey? You weren't here when I got up. I got a little worried. Are you okay? I stepped through the front door, looked her square in the eyes and said flatly, What the hell do you care, sweetheart? I need you to come pick me up. Lauren's voice came through the phone, shaky and soft. I'm at Jake's. Can you come get me? Please? I couldn't help it, I laughed. Not a kind laugh. Not the kind I used to give her when life was simple and we were still in love. This one came from somewhere bitter. Yeah, no, I said sharp and cold. Screw you, Lauren. She went quiet on the other end. I kept going. Yesterday? Sure, I was naive. I didn't see it. I didn't want to see it. But I'm not that guy anymore. And let's get one thing straight. You don't ever get to call me sweetheart or honey or any of those fake names ever again. You lost that right. Mark, please, she begged. Please don't be mad at me. Oh, don't waste your breath, I snapped. Go cry to someone who gives a damn. Jake maybe. Or whatever other lapdogs you've been whispering to. She tried to speak but I cut her off. You want to talk to me? Fine. Then come to me. Alone. Now. Before I change my mind. I'll come, she said softly, then the line clicked dead. RK and I exchanged a glance. He was monitoring everything, listening through the feed he'd tapped from the house. She told Jake she's heading over, RK said. And from what I can hear, he's not thrilled. I bet, I muttered. She also told him you're armed. That you said you'd kill him if he showed up. Yeah, I said. Because I meant it. RK gave me a half smile. Man, I've seen you mad before. But that phone call? That was something else. Just wait, I said. I'm only warming up. A moment later, RK's phone buzzed. He glanced at it. Well, here's something fun, he said. Your wife just ordered an Uber. Jake and his crew are planning to tail her. Of course they are, I muttered. They don't know when to quit. They're also planning something more, RK said. Got this from one of my guys who picked it up on the parabolic mic. They're going to try to dose you with something, whatever it is. She's got it in her purse. Apparently, she's supposed to slip it to you once she gets close. I shook my head, amazed. Unbelievable. My boys are gonna follow Jake's car, RK said. We've got eyes. But watch yourself. I'll text you updates. I nodded, jaw tight. Thanks, man. After RK left, I sat alone in my den waiting. When Lauren finally walked in, I could see the hesitation in her eyes. Her shoulders slumped, her lips trembling like she wasn't even sure if she belonged in the same room with me anymore. I didn't know what else to do, she started. I walked past her and closed the door behind her, locking it, slowly. Then I turned to face her. You know, I used to be a different man, I said, my voice low. Back when I drank hard, there were nights I got real mean. One time, I nearly beat a man half to death, with my bare hands. Guy was twice my size. That was the night I promised myself I'd never let it happen again. She just stood there silent. But you, I said, shaking my head, you made your choices. Just like I made mine. You chose him. You chose this life. Jake's puppet, Jake's sidekick, Jake's plaything. Her lip trembled. Oh my God, Mark. What have I done? That's what I want to know, I said, my voice rising. What the hell happened to you, Lauren? You used to be the kindest, most grounded person I knew. What happened? Did you overdose on stupid pills? Or did Jake hit you with some alien ray gun that scrambled your brain? She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. You're sick, you know that? I said. You planned to drug me. What was next? Drag me back to his house? Leave me passed out in a basement somewhere? Did he put you up to this? She looked down at the floor and nodded, barely whispering. Yes, she said. The silence that followed was louder than any shout. I guess if Jake told you to shove a red-hot poker somewhere unmentionable, you'd do that too, huh? I said, voice bitter and cold. Let me guess. Your plan was to jab me with whatever you've got in that little syringe of yours, wait for me to go down, and then call Loverboy to come scoop me up. That about sum it up. Lauren couldn't even look at me. She nodded, small and ashamed. Pretty much, she whispered. All right, I said, crossing my arms. Here's how this is going to go. You're going to call Jake. Put it on speaker. I want to hear every word. She hesitated, then pulled out her phone, her fingers shaking. The call connected, and Jake's smug voice came through the line like poison. That was all I needed to hear. It didn't take long after that. Somehow, I ended up standing over Jake back at his house. The situation flipped on its head. I had him by the hair, forcing his head up while pressing the cold steel of a knife against his throat. Go ahead, I growled. Make your peace with God, Jake. Because I swear, I'm seconds from cutting your head clean off. Jake's eyes went wide. His cocky grin disappeared. He shook. His body betrayed him, and yeah, he wet himself. Behind me, Lauren gasped and stepped back. I could feel the terror radiating off her. Who is this man? She whispered to herself. This isn't Mark. She was right. That part of me, the patient, loyal, forgiving part, was gone. As I pressed the blade just enough to leave a line on Jake's neck, the front door slammed open. Mark, a voice boomed. Drop it. I looked over and saw Sergeant AR framed in the doorway. His face was firm, but his voice carried that thread of brotherhood, the kind you only have with someone who's been in the trenches with you. Don't do this, he said calmly but with force. The police are already on their way. Let it go, brother. Let the law deal with him. I stood there, blade trembling, rage pulsing through every vein. Jake was trembling too, his earlier arrogance now gone, replaced by pale-faced panic. He was finally realizing what it felt like to be powerless. You know, he muttered, trying to salvage some control, my father always did love you more than me. I looked at him, shaking my head slowly. That's not true, Jake, I said. He hoped, really hoped, you'd grow up enough to take over someday. But you never did. Jake's voice cracked. Would you really have done it? Cut my head off. I stepped back, lowering the blade. We'll never know now, will we? I said. But where you're headed, you'll be surrounded by people who won't hesitate the way I just did. I walked away, tossing the knife onto the table as AR let out a breath of relief behind me. Later that night, back at my place, RK handed me a small stack of cards. One was for a top-notch divorce lawyer. I know her personally, he said. Michelle Hawkins. Sharp as hell. Hates cheaters with a vengeance. I called her this morning. She said she's expecting you first thing Monday at 8 a.m. Thanks, I said, nodding, the gratitude deeper than words could express. Anytime, brother. Ride or die, he replied, clinking his bottle against mine. Bora, I said with a chuckle. That was our old code from back in the service. As we finished our beers, RK stood and glanced around. Looks like you've got a bit of a cleanup job ahead of you, he said, clapping a hand on my shoulder. The next day I got a call from David, the interim CEO. Mark, he said, the board's had their eye on you for a while now. They're impressed. And frankly, after everything that's come to light, they're relieved someone like you is still standing. Appreciate it, I said cautiously. There's going to be a raise and a few new benefits with the promotion, he added. You've earned it. But before we celebrate, there's something we need from you. Name it. We're bringing in an external auditing firm. Completely independent. Their job is to comb through every inch of what Jake touched. Every file, every deal, every dollar. And they're reporting directly to you. I sat back in my chair, a quiet fire behind my eyes. Sounds good, I said. Let's get started. There wasn't a shred of doubt in my mind. Lauren was going to prison. After everything she'd done, everything she'd helped Jake plan, there was no getting around it. And honestly, I didn't feel the slightest bit sorry for her anymore. The next morning I was at Michelle Hawkins' office right at 8 a.m. sharp. She greeted me like she already knew this was war and brought me straight into her office. No waiting. No small talk. I laid everything out. Texts, pictures, the video clips, the setup with the drug, the betrayal from the inside. She took notes without flinching, her pen scratching across the paper as I told her everything. Once I finished, she looked me in the eye. California divorce law is mostly no fault, she said. Everything's typically split 50-50. But you two don't have kids and the house? That was yours before the marriage. With that, and the evidence you have, it's very likely you'll walk away with it. I nodded, quietly relieved. She continued, explaining the timeline, next steps, and what to expect in court. She was methodical, sharp, and every bit the legal bulldog I'd been told about. Then she paused and asked, You still want her to go to jail? I didn't hesitate. Yes. She gave a small nod. Good. Then let's get to work. Later that day, while everything was still raw in my mind, I got a call from someone on the internal audit team. They'd started digging through Jake's old files, expense reports, deals, signed contracts. It was messy. Apparently, things started to shift not long after Alan passed away. Jake had always played the part of the clean-cut executive. But when his father died and he didn't get promoted, something in him snapped. He'd been convinced that Alan had chosen me instead, that the board had been steered by some master plan to sideline him. That's ridiculous, I said. Alan told me, more than once, that he wanted Jake to grow into the role. He believed in him. He wanted to pass the torch. I know, the auditor said. But Jake didn't see it that way. That weekend trip to New York? That's when the two of them, Jake and Lauren, got serious. That's when the lies really started. A day later, Lauren called me. Maybe she thought time would soften me. It didn't. Mark, she said, her voice cracking, can you ever forgive me? I let out a dry laugh. Forgive you? Not even close. There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing. You cheated on me, I said, with him? And Lord only knows if it was just him. Then you plotted with that same guy to have me drugged and what? Dragged off? Assaulted? Kidnapped? Don't even think about asking me if we can still be friends. She didn't. She just whispered, I understand. I hope it was worth it, I said flatly. Goodbye, Lauren. I ended the call and watched as she hung up on her end too. I could see her on one of the live camera feeds RK had left active, tears running down her cheeks. But I felt nothing. I went home, packed a bag and hit the road. Vegas was calling. I met up with Gunny Johnson at a small bar just off the strip. He was older now, grayer than I remembered, but still sharp as hell. We shared a couple of drinks, and when he offered to let me crash at his place that night, I took him up on it. That week I let go. We gambled a little just for fun. I stuck to Gunny's rule, know when to walk away. And by midweek I was up $300. Bought dinner, drinks, and tickets to a show with Candy, a woman I'd met through a friend of Gunny's. She was sweet, sharp, and honest. And that night? She reminded me what it felt like to be wanted, not used. We spent most of that week together. I didn't expect anything long-term, and neither did she. But every night she made me feel like a man again, not a pawn. By Friday I felt like myself again. Stronger. Calmer. That morning back in California, the audit team uncovered more dirt. Jake had been fudging numbers, exaggerating expenses on business trips, and covering up backdoor deals that could have landed the company in real trouble. David, the interim CEO, called me directly. "Mark," he said, "you're not going to believe what we're finding. But I'll tell you this much, the board is behind you. They've been watching. They're pleased." "I appreciate that," I said. "There's a raise in there for you," he added, "and a few perks too. But first, you've got a job to do. We're bringing in a full audit team from the outside. You're going to oversee it. Everything Jake touched is getting pulled apart, and they'll report directly to you." I stood there in my hotel room staring out over the Vegas skyline. "Sounds like a plan," I said, smiling for the first time in what felt like forever. Turns out, the rabbit hole went deeper than we thought. After all the financial mess, the external auditors uncovered even more. Jake hadn't just been bending the rules. He'd been outright mismanaging client accounts, moving funds in ways that violated federal regulations. It wasn't just unethical, it was illegal. The moment that report landed on our desks, we forwarded everything to the SEC. Within weeks, Jake found himself staring down federal charges. And this time, there was no wriggling out of it. Over the next few months, David and I worked side by side, cleaning up the wreckage Jake had left behind. It was exhausting, long hours, endless meetings, and late nights poring through old contracts and damaged relationships. But thanks to our immediate response, we didn't lose a single client. That didn't mean the damage wasn't real. It was. But we faced it head-on. And in a strange way, it gave me a purpose again. Something solid to rebuild from. Eventually, law enforcement got a search warrant for Jake's townhouse. What they found inside shocked even me. Aside from more financial evidence, they uncovered dozens of lewd videos and explicit photos, many involving women who hadn't even known they were being recorded. It wasn't just Jake. It was all of them. Lauren. The 3 other guys from that night. Every one of them went down. When the trial wrapped, the judge found them guilty on every single charge, from conspiracy to drugging, assault, and unlawful surveillance. I was in the courtroom when the verdict was read. The judge didn't mince words. He looked each of them in the eye and said he was disgusted by their actions. He called them arrogant, depraved, and dangerous. And then he sentenced them like they were nothing special at all. 5 people let out in handcuffs. 5 lives imploding in public. I stood next to David as we left the courthouse, brushing past the swarm of reporters and photographers outside. We said nothing. Just walked forward. About 10 days later, I got a visitor. A woman knocked on my office door and stepped in with a quiet confidence. "Hi," she said. "I'm Kristen. I don't think we've met before." She had a warmth to her, something real. "I thought I'd met most of Alan's family," I said, offering my hand. "I was in France when Uncle Alan passed," she explained. "I couldn't make it back for the funeral. But I've heard about you." I raised an eyebrow. "And what brings you here today?" She smiled. "I just wanted to meet the guy who finally brought my cousin to justice." I couldn't help but grin. "So, I'm guessing there's not a lot of love lost between you and Jake." Kristen shook her head. "None. He was a stain on our name. I'm just glad someone finally held him accountable." Over coffee, I told her what had happened. Everything with Jake, the fallout, and Lauren's betrayal. She listened closely, eyes softening. "I'm sorry," she said when I finished. "You didn't deserve any of that. You deserve someone who actually sees you." And somehow, that moment sparked something new. We started seeing each other after that. First coffee. Then dinners. Walks. Laughter. Healing. It wasn't rushed. It didn't need to be. It was steady, honest, and real. And then one night, in the middle of our tiny kitchen while she was cooking pasta and dancing barefoot on the tile floor, I asked her to marry me. She gasped, then practically tackled me to the ground, covering my face in kisses. "I take it that's a yes?" I asked, laughing as she finally let me breathe. She grinned wide. "No, Mark. That's a hell yes, Marine. Now carry me upstairs and love me properly." And just like that, the worst chapter of my life gave way to the best one. Funny how life works out sometimes.